Hey, welcome back to the Connor Larsen Show, episode 11, I think. And thanks for listening. I'm happy you guys are here. I'm pumped. I'm having a great time. It is mid-June, June 16th today, and I am having a lot of fun. I'm out in the garden. Me and my wife are gardening it up, and it's a lot of fun. And that's what the episode is going to be today. I got all this stuff that's coming in, that's finally blooming, that's finally, we're cashing in on all the spring prep. And it's fun. And I wanted to know more about the stuff I'm growing because for me, if I know something about it, I like it more. Like I read this thing about zinnias before I started planting them. I went to this website. I wanted to find like non-GMO seeds, and they had zinnias, and they said that zinnias were great, and that one of the knocks on them was that they were like so easy to grow that people didn't like them. And I was like, that seems insane. I started growing zinnias, and now I'm like full on. Now I think zinnias are my favorite flower. I'm going to talk about zinnias more today because they're part of the stuff we got growing. But I just find that for me, like a personal little note, if I know something about it, it just makes me enjoy it more. And there's tons of stuff coming in that I'm excited about. And if you live in Tennessee or a similar climate, grow this stuff. It's all easy enough that a dumb guy like me can do it. So if a dumb guy like me can do it, it's pretty easy. But yeah, I've been having a great week. I've been out in the garden. I burned myself I was changing my lawnmower's oil, and I was running the engine so that the oil wouldn't be all cold and viscous. And I forgot that if you do that, you are heating up the muffler quite a bit. And then I immediately stuck my hand on it and burned myself. So that was kind of fun. I like pretending like it's a war wound. I like really playing it up. I like telling my wife like, I don't know if I can fly. I have a 2 millimeter sized burn. Yeah, I'm having fun. I'm weed whacking. I'm mowing. I'm finishing our little fence. It's all fun when it's coming in. Once the fruit you start to see it and you start to harvest this stuff, it's like, you're like, oh yeah, that's why I was doing all this stuff that I didn't feel like doing. And in Nashville, we're getting our first like great weather. It's finally like soft. It's like sunny. It's not that hot, but it's a little hot. It's not humid. I'm loving it because I know it's not going to last. But anyway, I'm going to talk about, so anything I talk about today is stuff that I'm currently growing in my garden. And I'll have a video up of like just a little tour of the garden so you can see it if you want. But I'm having a blast. The main things that we're growing, the things that I'm really loving right now, I'm going to start with, we got some zinnias. Zinnias are these beautiful, weird flowers that come from Mexico. And they are cool because apparently, and this is the other thing too, I'm going to do a up top disclaimer. Every time I do research on these things, there's like some nervous garden guy out there who's like, we can't confirm. And you go, listen, no one is living or dying with this. Okay. If I get something wrong about the zinnia, we'll be okay. But I think they're beautiful. They're beautiful. And I was at Johnny Seeds. Shout out Johnny Seeds. They just sell me stuff at regular prices and have never talked to me, but I like them. I went to their thing and I was looking through the flowers and they had like new, which is such a funny, you see new on like shoes, but I didn't expect to see new flowers, but they're always making new variations. And they had these new ones called like ballerina and linen. They're just beautiful pink and white zinnias. So I got a bunch of them and I was like, I'm going to plant them. My wife's it's going to blow her mind. And they are beautiful, and they are blooming now, but it took a while to get there because the zinnias are great because they don't need anything. You can just plant them in crappy soil, and they actually like it. If you plant them in like rich soil that you've put compost and amended, they don't grow as well, which is great. But I was overthinking it, and I in the spring I was growing all these zinnias and seeds, and I couldn't wait for my wife to be like, oh man. And then when you transplant them, they don't like that. So a lot of them didn't make it. And then she just threw some, ugh. And she just threw them in this little garden that she's like got her own little wildflower garden. And they took off and they crushed it. And so I was like, okay, lesson learned. These things really are just throw them in the ground. So then yesterday, I cleared out a huge 15-foot area and planted nothing but zinnias. Like, I mean, tons of seeds. And so hopefully in 60, 70 days, we got just a crazy amount of flowers. But that was a fun project. And it was interesting reading about them. So people don't like them, or I guess for whatever reason. They're from Mexico. And they said the big rumor is that I like saying the big rumor. Like this is what you're hearing about. It's this in Love Island. That's what people are. That's what people are talking about. The rumor though is that the Aztecs thought they were ugly and didn't like them. And people say this because there is no Aztec word for zinnia. There's an Aztec word for marigold and sunflower and a bunch of other stuff. These other Mexican flowers, but there's not one for zinnia. And when like the Spanish got to Mexico, they didn't like these flowers either. They were like, it's funny. There's these letters where the guy was basically like, yeah, these suck. Even the poor people here can grow them, which is like a funny thing I've learned about flowers is if people like flowers that are fussy, like the roses, which suck, they hurt you and they easily, I mean, I love roses. They're beautiful, but they suck in terms of they have thorns and they're hard to grow and they're obnoxious about, their demands sometimes and they don't grow in terrible soil. Everybody loves those. International symbol for love. That's what I like about all the flowers and fruits that are symbols for love are difficult and fussy. And I swear, I think it's because for a lot of people, that's what they think love's supposed to be. They go, this thing is difficult. This reminds me of my relationship. That's why roses are the symbol for love. That's my working theory. We'll see if that is true. But yeah, it is funny. There is like a real snobbery about flowers that grow easy. People don't like them. I mean, I was talking to somebody about sunflowers like that. I think sunflowers are gorgeous. We cleared off a huge area and we actually have like 13 different types of sunflowers coming up. And that's another video I'll have out on my YouTube. And it's so cool, and they grow really, you got to baby them a little bit, but not much, not anything like most flowers. And then they're huge. They're like 10 feet. We got little teddy bear ones that are 3 feet, and we got the Russian mammoth ones that are 10 feet. And I love them, but people don't really, I don't know, for some reason, people don't treat sunflowers as like beautiful flowers all the time. And I think it's because they're not fussy. It's like squeaky wheel gets the grease sort of thing. So these flowers that just deal with it, people go, man, how good could it be? Which I think is, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting part about it. But so the zinnias are really coming in. I'll try to post a picture because we have one that's like really beautiful. I was very, very proud of it. They grew it in space. They grew, I guess, in the space station. Some guy had a seed and he, did whatever he had to do, grew it in a little plastic bag, and they grew up there, which I thought was kind of cool. It was the state flower of Indiana until it wasn't. Apparently, it got like, some guy was like, we got to get rid of it. And they voted in the peony, which seems, I don't know, it seems like your state flower should stay your state flower, but that's kind of funny. And then, yeah, I love growing them here in Tennessee because they're easy and they grow really well. And that's another thing I discovered in this episode was that a lot of the best flowers you can grow in Tennessee are from Mexico because I guess they just map onto each other from a climate standpoint. I remember watching a show a long time ago about cooking, and they said if you look at like the latitude on a map, you'll see like similar cooking styles. Like Louisville is the same latitude as this city in Korea, and they both had this one pork dish. I can't remember, but it was an interesting idea that like. Yeah, you kind of can just... It goes back to that invasive species episode where a lot of stuff from China and Japan grow in the southeast of America because they have similar climates. And I wouldn't... Until I start really thinking about it, you kind of just assume they're very different. But yeah, interesting to think that if it grows in certain parts of Mexico, you can probably grow it here in Tennessee, which I thought was a cool rule of thumb. The other thing we're growing strawberries. Strawberries are my personal project. I can't get enough strawberries. I love strawberries. I eat them every day. And when you grow them, you pretty quickly learn like you're just not growing enough of them. I would say the first year we grew strawberries, which was the last year, we grew 10 bare root plants and never really had enough. And they kept getting eaten by the birds or, toads or pests. Probably not toads. Nematodes? Is that what I'm thinking of? Something. And we never really had enough strawberries. So this year I was like, all right, well, this year I'm getting a lot more. And I got, maybe 15, 20 plants. And it's, maybe they'll come in. It's supposed to be, they're supposed to harvest soon and they're looking better. But I think next year I'm going all out. I'm going to pretend like I'm going to the farmer's market and I'm just going to do rows of, bought a big tarp. I'm going to tarp off a big area and make it just get rid of all the grass. I'm going to kill the Bermuda grass. I mean, whatever I got to do to get rid of that grass. God, I hate that stuff. And then plant nothing but strawberries because I love them. But they don't grow, they don't grow enough. And then when you look into it, as with all these fruits I looked into, the ones you get at the supermarket just kind of suck. We went to this one farmer's market in Lebanon, and I wish I could remember this lady's name, but she had these strawberries that were like unbelievable. Like it was like eating a different thing. And that's another thing that I was seeing in the research here. It's like a lot of the stuff that you're getting the variation of strawberry that's the most shippable and photographs the best at the expense of it tasting good, which sucks for us as consumers, right? Like on the one hand, you can get them all year. That's nice. You don't have to grow them yourself. But it is a bummer that just from an incentive standpoint, growers are going to be like, well, I'm going to grow what makes me money. I'm not going to grow the best strawberry. And then as we change fruits and vegetables over time to make them more shippable or photographed better, we kind of lose the delicious variations of them, which I don't know. That bums me out in the same way that like an endangered species bums me out, where you're like, just don't lose it. You know what I mean? I want the option to go back if we get to a place where we want to. But yes, I was reading about the strawberries. Apparently they used to be tiny. They used to be like teeny tiny, the size of a penny or something in Europe and in North America. And they grew wild, so people would eat them, but they weren't really that into them. And then some French guy, whose name is very French. Let me see if I can get it. I'm going to give it a shot. Amédée Francois Frégé. Crazy that French people are just walking around with these names. You know what I mean? And they're not going like, I'm going to go by Frank. Francois, I'm going by Frank. So this guy gets sent to South America to try to like steal Spanish gold. There were so many cool jobs back then. You know what I mean? Now you get like hired by Amazon to review complaints or whatever. Back then you would get hired to map Spanish ports so you could steal gold. So this guy's over there in modern day Chile, and he sees these people with these big strawberries, and he's like, what is that? And he brought them back on a boat. He had to keep them alive a whole boat ride, like 9 months, which I think is pretty amazing. And then he crossbred them with the European ones, which tasted really good. And that's how you get the modern strawberry. Apparently, modern strawberries are only like 250 years old. People weren't eating them, which I like thinking about that with history, where you read about stuff and you're like, oh yeah, like, on one level, like Napoleon never had sushi, but Napoleon, well, he might have had a strawberry, depending on how, I don't know if he was a food guy, but if he was, he might have had one, but he might not. And that's interesting to me. Or he might have had like a tiny one. He never had a big strawberry, which is probably good because he had tiny little hands from what I understand. But also the French guy, Amédée Francois Frégé, apparently Frégé, his surname, his last name, if you trace it, it comes from the French word for strawberry. So is it all a global conspiracy? Is this an Illuminati plot to make strawberries big? I don't know. Probably not. But yeah, so I'm growing a lot of those. I love the strawberries. The problem is you got to get them. I've realized like everybody else in the garden, like all the animals love strawberries too. So if you see it and it's ripe, you got to get it. But I will eat our strawberries right after like a supermarket strawberry, and it's nuts. It is kind of cool. It's also kind of a bummer that you're like, oh wow, we could be. I mean, it would be difficult and it would be way more expensive, but we could be eating these strawberries. Actually, I don't know if that's true that it'd be difficult. I think a lot of these commercial growers, they could just make slightly less money, and they would, but they're never going to do that. But whatever. I don't want to lose the thread. So yeah, that was interesting. I like that. What else are we growing? We're growing watermelon. This is my white whale. This is the plant. I tried to grow it all last year, and I couldn't do it. They kept getting eaten. Everybody loves them. The squirrels eat them. We had deer eating them. I guess they say that if you have a lot of water sources in your yard, you stand a better chance, because for like animals, they're actually into the fact that watermelons have all this water. That's like the big selling point. And I was looking at the research. That's what, for a long time, that's what people liked about watermelon. It was like the first Stanley Cup. You know, you could put it on your camel or whatever and go across the deck because it would stay there. And also, I was reading about this. Watermelons they didn't used to be red. That's a thing we did. We liked that they looked better when they're red, so we kind of bred for that selectively over time. But there's paintings you can see in like the 1500s, 1400s where watermelons, they look like washed out. They're kind of pink or white. And so that's something we were like, no, we can't have that. We got to do that. And I was reading about I was trying to find out what's the best watermelon. And they were saying the Bradford watermelon, that's the variation, that's the best one. And then I started reading about it, and they said that this one was so good that in like the 1800s in the American South, people would steal them. It was they really wanted them. So then farmers would poison one watermelon in the field, but you wouldn't know which one. So you'd be like, well, do I want to steal it? But then the farmers, they said, would forget. And there's like horrible newspaper articles about a guy poisoning his family because he forgot, which, listen, that's sad, but it's also it just is such a crazy, from where we are today, where you go like, do you have $8? Because if you do, you can have a watermelon. Back then, they used to be like, there used to be life or death watermelon stuff, which I thought was very interesting. What else did I like about the watermelon? Oh, they found. So I was reading another thing. They said they found in, I think Africa, maybe they found this melon that they think is basically the watermelon's dad. That's what. Sometimes you hear yourself saying stuff in headphones and you go, "What are you saying?" But they found the plant that they think the watermelon came from, and that blew my mind. I didn't realize. I guess I did, but I didn't think about it that. Plants have like predecessor plants that they come off of, a lot of them. And so I was like, well, what are the other ones? And this is what I learned about. So you can trace corn. There's a thing called teosint. It's like an old corn, and it looks weird. So for a long time, scientists would fight and say it wasn't, but I guess now they've proven it is. I love that's a fight somewhere. Carrots were purple and white for most of the time. And then we decided they looked better orange. And by we, I mean Dutch people, apparently. And they bred them to be orange. And now they're orange, which I think is such a fun. I like that. Bugs Bunny could have been eating purple carrots. They said peaches used to be tiny and mostly just the pit. And we were like, well, that's no good. And then bananas. Bananas are like maybe the most messed with fruit. Bananas, by the time I was done reading about them, I was like, did we curve them too? Is that how much? Because we've messed with them. Wild bananas are full of seeds. They're hard, and we made them, they don't taste, and they're also not sweet. So they're none of the, I actually think it's pretty impressive that someone looked at a wild banana and said, I bet I could make that. Because I love, bananas now are incredible, but they made them, they took all the seeds out. They made them like peelable. They weren't peelable, I guess. They weren't easily peelable. And then they made them sweet, which are pretty big changes. That you're almost kind of, at that point, you're like, well, we might as well just make something else because this is a whole different thing. And then everything has been changed to have better shelf life and ship and all that stuff. But, they said eggplants. We're growing a lot of eggplants too. Maybe I'll cover that in the next episode. The reason they're called eggplants, they used to be small and white, and that's why they look like eggs. That's why they're called eggplants. So I like that. I like the watermelon history. They said they found them. In Japan, they grow rectangular watermelons. They plant them in like molds so that they grow as a square, and then they harvest them early so they stay a square, and then they sell them for whoever thinks that's. I mean, that's a tough way to spend your money. I got to be honest. If you're spending, you go, and it's like I was reading about, it's like 800 yen or $800, which is whatever, 51 billion yen, or I don't know what the conversion is, but they were expensive. So I love the idea that someone's out there, like missing a mortgage payment to buy a square watermelon. That just kind of shows you the incredible, the human experience is different for everybody, because that's not going to happen for me. I would spend at most $9 on a square watermelon. And then here's what really got me pumped up. And this also kind of made me feel bad because I haven't been able to grow watermelon yet. Although I think this year we're doing good. The world record watermelon grown right here in Tennessee. It was right here. I'm fired up. To me, that was the 4th of July. I loved hearing that. And the world record watermelon is 350 and a half pounds by Chris Kent, who I assume is Superman's brother. And honestly, more impressive. But yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And I'm going to try to beat it this year. Right now, I have about a 4 millimeter, a 2-inch watermelon growing out there. So I think I could get it to, I think if I really focus, I could get it to like 365 pounds. So what else are we growing? We're growing, basil. This was the one that was like fun to, we have a ton of basil and it's taken off and I really like it. And we have Thai basil, we have Italian basil, and we have one other basil, maybe lemon basil. And they're all growing good except for the Thai one. I don't know what I did wrong with that one, but I love basil. There's a lot of dishes where you can just chop up tons of basil and put it with like chicken or ground beef and onions and chilies, and it's awesome. So we were doing a lot of that. And the basil was growing great. And I started researching it, being like, this is probably pretty normal. It's insane. People are insane. So the thing about basil, in Italy, it's a symbol of love. And then everywhere else in the Mediterranean, it used to be a symbol of hatred and scorpions, which I think is because for Italians, that's what love is. But no, I did like that everybody else was like, this is about hatred. And then Italians were like, this is love. And you're like, well, okay. But yeah, I have no idea why. So I was reading the thing they said in the 1500s, they found like doctors' manuals that said doctors would tell people, if you smell basil, you will grow a scorpion in your head, which really puts in perspective how much better going to the doctor is now. You know what I mean? I don't like the doctor. I don't try to go. But when you think about like you had something you were worried about back then, you went to the doctor because like your knee hurt and he goes, hey, by the way, just while we're here, you're not sniffing basil, right? And you go, no. And he goes, good, because you'll grow a scorpion in your head. And you're like, I got to find a new doctor. But yeah, they said, I don't know why they thought it was scorpions. They just, I can't figure anything out. They said it comes from the Greek word basikalon, and it's the king of herbs. And they said the cool thing about it, this is what the Greeks said, also a great scientific culture. They said that it is a cure for the basilisk, which is great news because the basilisks don't exist. But I like that as a selling point. They go, hey, I know if you've been having trouble with basilisks, we got some basil. Something about, to me, basil is like a very neutral, smells good, just regular little green leaf thing. It's interesting to me that people had these strong reactions to basil. There's stuff I could see them being like, what is that? Like there are like certain plants that look like, alien jaws or whatever. But basil is a weird one to plant it. They said in France, with basil, you have to, if you want it to grow while you're throwing the seeds and sowing the seeds, you have to just scream and curse. Couldn't tell you why, but something is going on with basil where everybody's fired up about it. This was the best one. This one actually is romantic. So Lisabetta of Messina, don't know her. There's a poem where apparently, her brother murders her lover, which, tough. And so then she digs up her lover's head and buries it in a basil pot and then waters it with tears. And you're like, okay. Like the guy who got her lover who got murdered, I'm sorry you got murdered, but you might have dodged a bullet because that lady sounds crazy. That if you're watering things with your tears, that's a red flag. That is, you have to reconsider. Gardening's great for mental health, but if you're going to water stuff with your tears, it's not. That's how I feel about it. But yeah, I love, we got a lot of basil growing. I love it. Apparently it only reached England in like the 1600s, which I love. I love whenever England is like late on a food because I have my whole family, we got a lot of British people in it, and some of the food is great, but a lot of the food's pretty bad. Or it's like, it's pretty bad. I'll say that it is not that much of a stereotype, or it is a stereotype, but it's a true one. That British food sucks, because we went over there recently and I was like, this is not great. Great country, cool country, but you guys got to get your food together. Okay, what else did we grow? Oh, we're growing cosmos. Those are my wife's favorite flower. And cosmos are awesome because same thing with the zinnias. People look down on them. They call them peasant flowers because they grow really well and don't take a lot of maintenance and grow in bad soil, which again, to me, depending on what you want to do with your garden, that's a selling point. I actually think that's great, and that's kind of what I tried to plant. Me and my wife, I think, made a good decision that we planted a lot of native perennials, so stuff that'll come back, that brings in pollinators that then go pollinate all the stuff we're growing, and also look great. We have cone flowers, which I did, that was in the native plants episode, and we have blanket flower and black-eyed Susans and all sorts of native Tennessee pollinators that come back with like very little maintenance. So I think that's a good way to add a lot of flowers to your garden. And then the ones we're growing, these cosmos and zinnias, they just grow, and it's great. So cosmos, there's one that smells exactly like chocolate, apparently. I didn't get it this year, but I want to try to grow it next year because I love anything that's got like a trick like that. Me and my dad drove up to Tennessee once through Alabama, and we stopped at a nursery in Birmingham, and they had a plant that smelled, it's called like pineapple guava or something, but if you eat the leaves, it smells like pineapple, or it tastes like pineapple. And the other day people came over and I was like, try it. And I ate one because I was like, I'll go first. And then it was the wrong plant and I was just eating a leaf. But so the cosmos are great. For a long time, people said they were extinct in the wild. The only way you could keep this, especially the chocolate one, you had to buy it. And then some guy in Mexico found it, and they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll still buy it." But yeah, so they grow super easily, and again, because they grow easily, people look down on them. Whereas roses are kind of a nightmare, and they get treated as the international symbol of love. I think that's the biggest lesson I got from this episode, is that for some people, love is about suffering. That's what people's relationships to flowers have taught me. But yeah, we grew a lot of that. We're growing some marigolds. We had a neighbor when we first moved to this neighborhood who was awesome, and she was a big gardener, and she helped us a lot early on when we were moving in. And then unfortunately she passed. But before she did, she gave us some marigold seeds, and then we planted them this year, and then we harvested them, a few. And we're going to let those seeds dry, and then we'll have. And I just think that's a fun project to keep those seeds going as long as we can. And all this stuff just makes the garden for me even more fun, is having these sort of the like emotional resonance of it. And it's also for me, I think gardening is the perfect balance to comedy. And I'm sure whatever job you have out there, it's probably some portion of it is online, and online's kind of crazy. It's nice to just go in the garden and kind of be like, oh yeah, none of that matters. This stuff's all my flowers are off social media. You know what I mean? They don't know. They're just thinking about the sun and the rain and stuff. They're not tweeting, which I appreciate. So yeah, I have a bunch more stuff we're growing, and we're going to, I'll do that in the episode coming out next week. But today I want to go back out there and do a little more gardening before it gets dark. So I'm going to, this one's a little bit of a short episode, but I hope you really like it. I had a lot of fun learning this stuff. I hope you guys, if you can grow this stuff, grow it. And if you think there's something I should be growing that's great, let me know. There's been a lot of people who send in really nice comments or helpful comments. I got a lot of advice on my getting rid of the lawn project, and some of it genuinely helped me. So I'm going to work on getting rid of the lawn, and I will film it, and the videos will come up as they're ready. But yeah, all good. I got a lot of shows coming up. I'll be doing stand-up comedy with my buddy Dusty Slay at the Mothership in Austin this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think there's just Sunday tickets left, but either way, that'll be a lot of fun. And then I'm headlining the Comedy Cabin in Janesville, Wisconsin, July 9th and 10th. Might be 10th and 11th, whatever the Friday, Saturday is that weekend. And I can't wait to get up there. Comedy Cabin is awesome. It's like it's a little independent club run by a guy, and he's a good guy, as opposed to a lot of these chains are, they're fine. I like them, but they're chains. They don't have the same, relationship with them. So I'm excited to go up there. I love that club. It is a great club. The way they built it is perfect for stand-up comedy. A lot of clubs you're building this. It's like the fruit thing, where some people are growing it for flavor and some people are growing it to maximize profit. And they both got their place, but I like the ones with some flavor. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for listening. Keep on listening. Everybody who liked and subscribed and commented, that's incredibly kind, and I appreciate it very much. If you come out to a show, maybe I'll see you out there. I'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening.